Hi guys, and welcome back to the Emily Knits channel. My name is Emily. I am a knitter and crocheter and I suppose sometimes other fibre artist as well in my mid-30s, based in the north of Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live with my other half and our 2 dogs close to Sherwood Forest. Where can you find me? I always forget this bit. You can find me on, everything will be down below, by the way. There'll be links and there'll be names and everything down below. You can find me on Instagram as @Emily_knits_. You can find me on Ravelry as Emily Knits 36. I'm not great at keeping that up to date, but you can find me on there if you would like to. You can contact me on email at emilyknitspodcast@gmail.com. You can find me on Ko-fi as Emily Knits if you would like to support the podcast. You can also buy me a pattern on Ravelry if you would like to. I have a wish list on there that I will link down below if you would like to support the podcast in that way. Today I have a podcast for you, a traditional podcast, and I've got quite a lot to get through. I think it's been probably about 4 weeks since I properly did a podcast. I did film in between that. I did a stash busting roundup for January, and there'll be a February one coming up very soon because as I'm filming this, it's the 28th of February. But I haven't done a podcast for a bit. Thank you for those of you who reached out to check if I was all right after my operation. That was absolutely fine. It surprised me how much energy it took out of me. It was a very minor surgery, and I thought, oh, I'll have plenty of time to film, but it just took more energy out of me than I expected. But it all went really, really well. I'm completely recovered. And then I'll be entirely honest, between filming my stash busting and filming today, I just wasn't really in the mood for filming, so I didn't film. But here we are. Because of that, I've got a lot to talk to you about. I've got a couple of finished objects. I've actually got 2. I've got a half finished object. I've got some mals to talk about, and I've got some lots of work on some whips that you've seen, and some work on some new cast-ons is the phrase that I'm looking for there. So without further ado, I'm not going to waffle any further. I'm going to get into it. I've got a coffee, so grab yourself something to drink, and yeah, we'll get into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about before we go into finished objects or anything like that is make-alongs. So I mentioned last time that I am running a make-along with Leah Amber Knits. Leah of Leah Amber Knits is the better way to put that, and also Leah of the Ruby and Pearls podcast, which I very highly recommend if you haven't seen that so far. I'm lucky to call Leah a friend, so I am biased, but I really like her content. So we are running the Get Ahead Mal. If you want to join in on that, that's mostly held on Instagram, but if you don't want to post on Instagram or you haven't got a public Instagram account, you can either directly send me entries via Instagram or send them to me via email, and I'll still include them that way as well. Essentially, Leah and I both live in the UK. We both live in is it the Northern Hemisphere? Yes, it's the Northern Hemisphere. Where we're heading into spring and summer, and they tend to be very short seasons, particularly in the UK, but I know in a lot of other sort of Scandinavian countries, European countries, it's exactly the same. So the aim is to, as the name suggests, get ahead for spring and summer. Yeah, how often does it happen where summer hits, you get a bit of nice weather, and you straight away, I know I do, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people out there who go, I want to make all the summer knits, but the trouble is, summer knits quite often take a long time. You might have to get yarn. If you haven't got yarn in your stash, you've got to pick a pattern, and then quite often you're working with finer yarn on smaller needles, or just yarn that's a bit harder on your hands because it's quite often cotton and things like that. And before you know it, summer's over, particularly in the UK, where sometimes you only get a couple of nice days and you're still working on your projects and you haven't finished it, and then you end up finishing it as the weather turns and it's cold and you don't want to wear it. So yeah, the aim was, particularly, I found last year I made a few summer tops and I found them really, really versatile. I've worn them a lot, and I've even continued wearing them into the winter with stuff layered over or under them. So I found them really versatile, and I wanted to add more to my wardrobe this year. And the aim of this is to encourage us all to do that and to get ready now for the season coming. So any whips are welcome, any craft is welcome, whether it be crochet, knitting, whatever. It just needs to be either a summer yarn or a summer pattern, like a top or a camisole or something like that. And you can enter it. So like I said, to enter, if you use the hashtag on Instagram, which I'll pop down below, and I'll pop all these instructions down below as well, then you can enter that way. Tag myself and or Leah in there, just so that we definitely see your entry rather than relying on the hashtag, because I know they don't always work. And say if you don't want to post publicly on Instagram, send it to me directly on Instagram or send it to me in an email. That's going to run until the 31st of March. Leah and I have said we might extend that a little bit further because that's coming around quite quickly. So you've got plenty of time to still enter that. There will be prizes, there'll be some yarn prizes, some pattern prizes. but just a quite nice informal mal. So that's the Get Ahead mal. And you may have seen on Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, I have created another mal that I'm hosting on my own. This one is going to be longer. This is going to be throughout the entirety of 2025. So I started it mid-Feb, but it's going to run until the 31st of December. And this is really inventively named the Emily Knits Stashdown MAL. So again, MAL, not CAL, make along. So any crafts welcome. You may have noticed, if you've been on my channel before, that I'm doing a yarn ban this year, and I am trying very hard to reduce the amount that I've got in stash. I want to use up my stash and everything. And I noticed when I was talking about that, I was getting a lot of comments from people saying they were doing the same. They wanted to either use up what they've got, maybe not necessarily not buying, but using up what they've got, being a bit more mindful with the purchasing and things like that. So I thought I would create something to give us a bit of accountability and sort of go along with that. So this one's got a bit more to it, so I'll talk you through it. So like I said, this is going to be running the entirety of the year. Whips are welcome if you've already started them, any craft is welcome, and any size of project, big or small, is welcome. I'm not going to be awarding prizes based on amount of yards used or anything like that. So don't worry, even if it's, I think somebody made a gnome the other day, one of the little gnomes, and she said it used about 10 grams of yarn, but actually sometimes they're the harder ones to use, aren't they? Those tiny little quantities. So there is a hashtag on Instagram, again, if you want to enter using that. I'll pop it on the screen, I'll pop it down below. Again, you can email me to enter, and I'll make sure I take entries, take winners from each of the ways you can enter. And I have as well created a Discord. There is no pressure to join this at all. This is predominantly at the moment around the Stashdown, but I think it's already creating a really nice community. It's a really nice place. It's not a super busy Discord. There's probably only about maybe 20-30 members in there, I think. So it's not like you're going to get notifications all the time. But yeah, to share finished objects, there's a finished objects thread, just to get ideas and inspiration. It's been really nice to see people saying, I've got some of this in stash, what would you recommend with it? What patterns would be like this kind of thing? And just sort of boosting each other up a little bit. There is no requirement to join that if you don't want to. But if you do want to, I'll pop the link below, and you are very welcome. It's a lovely little community. Even if you want to join and you want to post your finished objects in there, there is no requirement to be social. You don't have to. And yeah, whips are welcome, crochet is welcome, knitting is welcome, any craft is welcome. There is no there's no sort of stipulation on it has to all be stash yarn. The sort of rule I've put in place for that, and this is requiring kind of like an honesty box circumstance, because I'm not going to get you to tell me what you have and haven't used. Whips or finished objects or whatever, to enter must be a minimum of 50% stash yarn. So you're using up half of the project is made from stuff you've already got in stash. It doesn't mean it can't be stuff that's purchased this year. You don't have to be doing a yarn ban to enter as well. That was something I wanted to make clear. There is no requirement to be on a yarn ban, and there is no requirement to be tracking your stash, because I realise both of those things are quite triggering to people. They're not necessarily, they're good, they're working well for me, and I've said on, obviously I've said on my stash busting that I'm tracking my yarn stash, that I am, you know, on a yarn ban, but you don't need to be doing either of those things to enter. Say, I'm not going to be picking, I'm going to be picking winners randomly, and again, there will be prizes. I've already had some patterns really kindly donated, so there will be prizes. Again, I've yet to decide if I'm going to do it as yarn prizes, because it seems a bit counterintuitive to be encouraging you to use up yarn only to bring more yarn into your stash. So I've not quite decided if I'm going to do that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that below. But there will definitely be pattern prizes. I've already had some, say, really kindly donated, and I'm going to pick pattern prizes throughout the year, so that there'll be chance for you to win, multiple chances for you to win. But I'm going to pick those randomly, not based on this person used up the most or had the most number of finished objects or anything like that. So you don't need even to share how many meters you've used in an item. I'm just again, honesty box. I'm trusting you when you submit a finished object that it's made from stash yarn. And like I say, that doesn't have to have been stuff that was purchased pre-2025. It can be stuff that you've purchased this month but you don't use until December or whatever, you know. But yeah, really nice little community. I'd love to see some of you joining the Discord. I was a bit nervous about doing that because, and do you know what? If you want to join the Discord but you don't want to join the make along, that's also fine. It is going to be focused around stashing down, but it's a really nice little community. So even if you want to join that and you want to have the social aspect but you don't want to put your finished objects in the finished objects thread because you're not bothered about entering, fine, more than welcome. Please feel free to do that. So that was what I needed to say about that. I will put down below, there's a post on my Instagram that has all of the information anyway, but I will put down below the link to the Discord, how you can join, all sorts of rules and stuff like that. But yeah, those are the MALs, the Get Ahead MAL and the EK Stashdown MAL. Emily knits Stashdown MAL. I hope to see some of you there. So now that's done, let me have a drink and then we'll get into some finished objects. 10 minutes in, actually 13 minutes in, and I've only just gone on to finished objects. Okay, so first finished object is what I'm wearing. This was very close to being finished last time I filmed, but I hadn't quite got there. And honestly, it would have taken me about a day and a half to finish it, but it took me most of the month to finish it because I just kept putting it off, which is stupid because it really didn't take me very long. This is the Sugarpuff Sweater, the crochet version, which is designed by Mac Dye Conley. This was a test crochet for Mac. The test finishes in a couple of weeks and it's coming out early March, I think. This is, so I say the crochet version because MC's Blame the Knots is doing a collaboration with Mac and she's designed a knit version, which I know a couple of you are testing. That's also in testing at the moment. I think the aim is that they're going to be coming out around the same time, but they've got the same sort of style. So this is a top-down crochet jumper, knit, crocheted in Aran weight yarn. The sample I think is done in 2 strands of fingering held with a lace weight. I've used a single strand of Aran weight, which we'll go through. And I used a 5mm hook, 5.5mm hook, 5mm. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look back at my previous video to see what size hook I was using. I had to size down slightly from the recommended amount to get gauge, but she does say in the pattern that if you're using a single strand of Aran, you will probably need a slightly smaller hook to get gauge than you would if you're using 2 strands plus a lace weight. So yeah, crochet from the top down. You start at the back, you do your back panel, you then do your fronts, you join. It's a typical drop shoulder construction, just in crochet rather than knit. And if I stand up, you should be able to see a little bit more. It's all in double crochet, US double crochet, and then it's got this back loop only, or back loop only, not back loop only, front post, back post ribbon, and it's got the same at the bottom. This is really, really nice. I've not worn it as much as I expected to. Let me come back a bit so you can see the full effect. I've not worn it yet as much as I expected to. I have finished it about a couple of weeks. And the reason I've not is just purely because it's a little bit more casual. And I've been really busy at work and lots of meetings and I wanted something a little bit more polished, but it's a really nice casual fit, which I really, really like. So I made the size 4, which was, I think the recommended ease was maybe about 10 inches, and this has obviously a bit less than that, but it does still have probably about 4 inches of positive ease on me, and I love that fit, and I think this looks really, really nice. It's a really nice length on me. I didn't alter the length at all. I did the length exactly to pattern. I did the sleeves exactly to pattern, and they've got this nice relaxed fit with a little bit of a balloon at the end. And then the collar, which is also done in the front post, back post double crochet. So very happy with this. Let me sit back down. I can talk you through it a bit more because there weren't any modifications, but there were some things I noticed that I wanted to talk to you about. I'm out of breath. I feel like I'm babbling. Let me catch my breath a minute. So I think that might have been a bit quick, that. So I'm going to try and make a concerted effort to slow down a bit more. What was I saying? Yeah, okay, so some slight things I found. First off, really nice, really well written pattern. It's quite a simple pattern. I would say it's definitely it's suitable for an adventurous beginner. I wouldn't say a complete beginner. You need to know how to do double crochets and things like that, but everything was quite well explained. I had never done, do you know what, I've never done a foundation double crochet before. Is it foundation double crochet? Yeah, I've never done a foundation double crochet before or anything like that. And I'd certainly never seen it done in the technique that Mac uses in the pattern. But there's a really nice video tutorial linked. Everything is very well explained. As well as being a designer, Mac is also a crochet teacher, I think, a crochet tutor, and you can tell in the writing style. It's very well explained, very easy to understand, and I really liked it. I think I did make one ever so slight difference. I think my row gauge was a bit off, so I didn't add any. I added one less row to all of the ribbon except for the collar. We'll touch on that in a minute, including the bottom hem. Yeah, the thing that I did say that I would be aware of is just follow the pattern. So I did it in a slightly different order. The pattern advises you to do the back, do the fronts, do your body, then do your sleeves, then come back and do your ribbon. I didn't do that. I don't know why I didn't do that. I did my body, I did my ribbon. And I actually did, you can't tell because it's crochet and you can't tell, but I'd done one less row of ribbon and I really liked how it was sitting. And then I got to the end, I put my sleeves on, tried it on, and it was really wide, the neckline. So I went back in and had to do that additional row of ribbon, which is the amount that the pattern recommended. And really, if I just followed the order that the pattern had told me to, and I don't know why I did that, because I know that sometimes adding sleeves pulls things down, and that's exactly what it had done. It just, the weight of the sleeves has pulled it down. And yeah, so do it that way, because you might find that your collar will sit lovely and then you put everything else on and it doesn't. But yeah, this is, say I've not worn it as much as I expected, but I do really like it. Every time I put it on, I really like it. And I think over the weekend, which is just coming up because I'm filming on a Friday, I will probably wear this a lot more, just because I did wear it on Teams for a meeting earlier in the week, and it just looks a bit, yeah, casual, not formal enough really for a work setting, especially given my change in role that I mentioned before that's happening in the business at the moment. I used this yarn, which I have very little left of. So this is Stylecraft Special Aran with Wool, yep, in the shade Tawny Nep. You can't really see the neps very well, but it is, you can't see them at all, but it is a tweedy yarn. I don't think you can even see it in the, nope, maybe a little bit, you can see some neps. It's quite light on the neps, and I have found as I've worn it a bit, the neps have, I guess, fallen out. But it's a lovely colour. It is very much a tawny colour. So this is, where's my thingies? This is 77, so the main Stylecraft Special Aran with Wool is usually 80% acrylic, 20% wool. Because this is the tweedy version, this is 77% acrylic, 20% wool, 5% viscose, and the viscose is the neps. This comes in really big 400 gram balls, sat on it. This is the remainder of it, and this is 139 grams, which is what's remaining. But they're massive balls. They're about as big as my head. I mean, this isn't far off the size of my head, and it's mostly used up. So I used overall, I had 2 balls of this in stash that were bought from a D-stash from one of my friends. They had a price on the ball band of $10.99, but looking online, they are no longer that price. They're £12.39 or roundabouts. You can get them a little bit cheaper if you look on other sites, not what I was about to say. But yeah, about £12.39 a ball. I had to break into the second ball. I used a total of 661 grams of Aran weight yarn, which is 1,348 metres. Like I say, didn't add anything to the yardage. But yeah, this used up a lot of yarn, so that's a big chunk for stash busting, which I'm very pleased with. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I have an idea for this. I have forgotten a whip. I knew I had. I think I've got everything else here, but I haven't got that, so I'm going to go grab that, and we'll talk about it when we get to that whip, because I think I might make another one of those in that. 2 seconds. There we go. There's my remaining whip. Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to that, because I've got a bit of a plan of what I'm going to do with that. But yeah, big chunk out of your stash. So you would need the 2 balls. Stylecraft Special Aran with Wool doesn't come in smaller balls than the 400 grams, so you'd be looking at what, £24.80 for the total cost of the sweater, because you'd need to buy the 2 balls to be able to make the 2 balls. Still very cost effective, and I think because of the acrylic wool blend, it would wear really well. It's actually a really nice yarn. It's quite easy to forget that it's acrylic. It's not squeaky. The wool content changes that. I haven't washed it. I think it says it's machine washable, but I'd be a little bit wary of that. I'd block a swatch first in the washing machine, but because it's mostly acrylic, it's going to be very hard wearing. And I really enjoyed working with it. Actually, it was really easy to work with. The only thing to bear in mind is, particularly when you crochet, it might be different when you're knitting, but it's quite hard to crochet from these big balls, because you're really yanking to try and get it, and the ball's going flying across the room. So just bear that in mind. But yeah, there's quite a lot of these on the market, these sort of 70 to 80% acrylic and 20 to 30% wool, depending on the Stylecraft. There's a Sirdar one, which is the Hayfield one. There's a James C. Brett one. They're all a similar kind of price range, anywhere between sort of £10.99 and £14.99. And they're all pretty decent, actually. They're a really solid option if you want something a bit more cost effective, a bit more sturdy, I guess, for somebody in your life who maybe is a bit more hard wearing on stuff and you don't want to make them something out of wool, or for yourself that you don't want to make something out of wool. So really like these, and this is the first finished object. I have another one and I'm going to change into it, so I'll be back in a second. And we have the next finished object. This is so beautiful. I'm so happy with it. I'm so happy with it. Last time you saw this was just a back panel. So we've had a lot of progress since then. And this, let me stand up and show you because you can't see the full effect. This is my burnt umber cardigan by Kelcey of Knitting Niqabi. So with a bit of manoeuvring, there we go. This is my burnt umber cardigan by Kelcey of Knitting Niqabi, and it is stunning. I am so happy with this. So, slight modification I made first and foremost. I made mine a bit shorter than the pattern recommends because I wanted it cropped. I made it a little bit too short, but that's my own fault. And it should have another button. I do have another buttonhole. I did put another button on, but I wasn't happy with the placement of it, so I took it off, and actually I've been wearing it with 3. It would look better with 4, so I'm probably going to go back and do the 4th. So that's sort of more what it should look like, but I do still quite like how it looks with 3. So this is a bottom-up cardigan with raglan seams, raglan shaping, and it's knit in royal quilting stitch, I think it's certainly what Kelcey calls it. I believe that's the actual name for it, and it's this all over, yeah, you can see there, it's like, I've been calling it mermaid scales. It's like a quilted stitch, it's these diamonds, and it's just, I've not got words for this. This is so stunning. So stunning. Let me sit down so you can see the details a bit better. In fact, whilst I'm here, yeah, you can see the texture better there. Oh, it's so good. I'm so pleased with this. So I knit mine in 1 strand of Crops Baby Merino, which is the shade black, which is the black, as you can tell. And then the other shade is Malabrigo Arroyo in the shade Lotus. Now, these are both 100% superwash merino yarns. The pattern is written for sport weight, which they both are. But I think you could get away with fingering weight quite easily. I think a couple of the testers did. That's where it sits a bit better. So, yeah, there, that's better. I'm having a bit of problem with the fit on this, and it isn't the pattern, it's me. So when I was knitting this, obviously you knit the back panel, then you put that on hold, and then you go and do your sleeves from the bottom up, and then you join all around, and then you work your yoke decreases up, and once you've done that, then you pick up and work your bum band. I messed up the increases, on my first sleeve, and there should have been, there's an increase that I've got in right up here, that should have been probably more like here. And I didn't realise that until I got to the very end. I just read the instructions wrong. And should I have ripped back and done it properly? Yes. Did I? No. I just carried on and decided it would be all right. And I made the second sleeve to match. So unfortunately, what that does mean, the sleeves fit, but they are a bit tight at the top. And the other problem I've got, I don't know if you can see, I don't think you'll be able to see on camera. Let me see if I can come up close and if you can see. No, it's not showing, which is quite annoying. Yeah, you can see a bit there. Oh. So you can see on the body that the quilting stitches, I think you can see on the body anyway, it's laying really flat. There's no puckering or anything like that. It does a bit here, but that's just because it's not pulled tight. But it's laying really, really flat. And then on the sleeve, you can sort of see it down the bottom here. It's not laying flat, and I think I've held my floats a bit too tight. Because the way that you work the pattern is with slip stitches and catching floats and things like that. So I think that's created a bit more tightness on the sleeves than they needed to be anyway. And then with my mistake on the increases, that's caused more of a problem. Had I done those increases in the right place, these would have been perfectly fitting sleeves because they fit really nicely down the bottom. I've got room in here for manoeuvre, but they're nice and sort of snug to my arm. They're not too overly tight. So yeah, just watch where you're putting the increases when you're doing the sleeves. The other thing to note as well is that the recommended needle size in the pattern is something like a 5 or 5.5mm needle. But I think universally all of the testers had to size down massively to get the gauge for this. Kelcey is a designer who, similar to Harper of Dis Yarn in Design, seems to have a very, very tight natural gauge. So the gauge that she gets, or the needle size that she needs to get that gauge, is not necessarily representative of what you'll find. So that is a perfect example of when it's worth gauge swatching. I was on a 3.5mm needle for the main body and then a 3 for the cuffs, and a lot of the testers, if not all, were there or thereabouts, 3.5 to 4mm I think. So yeah, very definitely worth swatching. And a difficult pattern to knit, honestly, a difficult pattern in many ways. Bottom up, which is a bit more, not time consuming because you're knitting the same garment, but it feels a bit more time consuming. It's all over texture. Oh, I guess colour work, isn't it? It's all over colour work, but so much fun. So much fun. Oh, and then yeah, 1x1 rib on 3mm needles in black yarn. That was great fun. That was great fun. That's my own choice. This didn't need to be black. But it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so comfortable as well. And the yarns are gorgeous. So I've never actually knit a garment out of pure merino before. This is my first time doing it, and I get it. I get the Malabrigo hype as well. So Malabrigo Arroyo is the sport weight version of Malabrigo Rios, which most people tend to have heard of more. I certainly hadn't heard of Arroyo, but I'd heard of Rios. I think Rios is worsted weight. Oh, hello. Yeah, okay. Yeah, really lovely to work with. Block out absolutely beautifully. Both of them did. And so comfortable to wear. Really comfortable to wear. So I do get it. Now, the caveat I will add to that is that Malabrigo is not cheap. The drops, we'll start with the drops because the drops is fairly cost effective. So the drops merino comes in 50g balls, which gives you, I haven't written down how much a ball gives you. I will put it on screen. It was in 50g balls. I used 190 grams for this, for the black on this. So for all of the colour work and for the ribbon was almost 4 full balls, which was 665 meters of yarn. Like I mentioned, if you were to do it to the length in pattern, you would need more. I think I cut about 3 inches off the body. So you would need more yarn of both of them if you were to do it to full length. But if you wanted to do it cropped like I did, that's how much I used. And that would be 4 balls, which are £3.50 a ball for a 50g ball. So for superwash merino, that's quite cheap. That was what, £14 in total? Yeah, Pepper, give up. £14 in total for the contrast colour, for the black. You could absolutely do it in 2 colours of Drops Baby Merino. The caveat to that is that Drops Baby Merino only comes in solid colours, so you wouldn't get this sort of hand-dyed look of the yarn behind it, which I think looks absolutely gorgeous. One of the things that I really like about this pattern though is that I think because of the colour, because of the texture and the way the colours play with each other, you could make this in so many different combinations of colours, and you could make this in so many different combinations of colours and it would look different every single time. Somebody did in the test black and purple, but a solid purple at the back, and that looked gorgeous. Somebody's done it in variations of pink, and that would look gorgeous. Part of me thought it would look really nice to flip it and to do the blue over top of the black and let the blue be a little pop, and that would look completely different again. You could do this in, somebody did it in shades of grey and it looks gorgeous. You could do it in black and white for a really high contrast. It would look good and like a completely different garment in so many different colours. So I do like that very much. But yeah, if you want this kind of, I guess you want the variegated base colour, if you want this kind of effect where the colours change and shift. So that's where the Malabrigo comes in. There are other alternatives. Malabrigo Rios is not, sorry, Arroyo is not cheap. Malabrigo yarns are not cheap, full stop. They are quite cheap for it's not a hand, is it a hand-dyed yarn? I think it might actually be hand-dyed, but it's commercially produced. Like it's not a small dyer is what I mean there. But it does certainly have that hand-dyed feel and effect to it. I've got the ball here so I can show you. Yeah, it's all sort of tonal colours and everything. Comparatively to from a hand dyer, it is cheap because you'd probably be paying about £20–25 a ball. But it's not cheap compared to the drops or anything like that. So for 100 grams skein of Malabrigo Arroyo is £14.99, and I used 315 grams of main colour, which is 963.9 meters. I've got 80 grams ish of the ball left. Again, if I'd added length, I would have needed more, but I would have still probably had enough in those 4 skeins. And that, had I paid full price, would have been the best part of £60 for that, and that is a lot of money, especially when you then add the £14 worth of the black on top and £4 something for the buttons. You know, that's what, £78 total for a cardigan. Yes, it's gorgeous, but is it worth £78? I'm not entirely sure. So I got this cheap, I got this from a D-stash, and I think I paid more like £7 a skein for it. So that puts it more on par. In fact, that puts it bang on par with the price per 50 grams of the Drops Baby Merino, because that was £3.50 per 50 grams. So per 100 grams would have been £7. So that meant for me that the total was more like £30 for the main colour, plus 14 for this. So £45, £44. Still a lot of money, but yeah, very different to what if I'd have paid full price for this. So yeah, that's the thing, is that Malabrigo is not cheap, but it is beautiful. I'm a little bit worried it's going to pill because it's merino and it's very soft, but we'll see. I hope it doesn't pill too much because it will ruin the texture a little bit, but I adore this. I absolutely adore this. This with a little black, I've just got like a little black bodysuit underneath it, black jeans and some black boots, like Doc Martens style boots, is going to look chef's kiss. I'm so excited to wear it. I'm going into town tomorrow with my mum and I'm going to wear this, so very pleased with this. I put a poll up on my Instagram saying could I finish it by last weekend, and I did finish it by last weekend. I just didn't end up going out with my mum last weekend because I wasn't feeling very well. So yeah, this weekend it's going to get worn and I'm super happy with it. I'm going to ramp things up a bit because I've been talking for 40 minutes and I've only just finished depots. So I've got a half finished object to show you. You may recognise these if you've been here for a bit. I have finally, now the weather's getting warmer, because of course that's exactly when you want to finish a glove, I've finally finished the first glove for my husband. So these are the very basic Dancing at Lughnasa gloves by Anne Carroll Gilmore. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. Looks very strange with my burnt umber, but this is my first one. I need to weave my ends in. I need to close up these holes here. These are just, it's free pattern on Ravelry. It's a very basic, as the name suggests, stockinette glove. He requested some thin gloves to fit under his like waterproof gloves that he's got, his seal skins, and I was shamed by him, rightfully so, into finishing them. I wanted to try and finish these to finish it February, but as you can see, we haven't because I've only got one. But I have cast the second one on. So we are working now on the second one. I am knitting these. These come in one size on the pattern, by the way, because it's a free pattern. You could quite easily size up or down. You could change your needle sizes and stuff like that, but it is meant for an adult size. And the thing with gloves is I use the cast on numbers. I got to the point where I separated for the thumb, or once I'd started increasing for this. Yeah, I did. I got to the point where I'd separated for the thumb, and then I just started trying it on. My hands are a really similar size to my husband's. I have massive hands for a woman. He's a 6'4" tall man with big hands, and my hands are as big as his, if not a couple of things are actually slightly longer. So that comes in quite handy because I can just try these on, and if they fit me, they'll fit him. So yeah, basically I just knit with the cuff until I was happy with the length, followed the increases for the thumb, and once I'd split with the thumb, then I started trying on until I was happy with, right, okay, I've got enough length to now do this finger and everything. So you can adjust them. You just need to have a bit of an understanding of the construction of gloves to do that. And to make them, this is what I'm using. This is fluff from World of Wool, which is a website in the UK. I've ordered from them a couple of times. I know they do a lot of spinning fibre, but they do actually do their own yarn as well. This is a 100% merino 4-ply in the shade Fuzzy Duck, and you can see, I think if I hold it up, yeah, it is quite visibly plied, quite a tight plied yarn. And it's been really lovely to work with. He chose the yarn, he chose the colour. So he wanted them in this, and it is a very soft yarn. When it blocks, it will block lovely. I haven't blocked this glove yet. And I'm going to have quite a bit left, I think. So I bought 3 balls, which in hindsight was stupid because I've made him a pair of gloves before out of a 50-gram ball of Kinross 4-ply. And I got 3 balls when really 2 probably would have done. And each ball is 50, there we go, 50 grams, which is 175 meters. So I've still got this much of the first ball yet left after finishing the first glove. So I think it's going to use up all of the first, and I think I'm going to break into the second. But I'm going to have the majority of 2 balls left when I finish, I think. So yeah, these are, where did that go? Oh, it's there. These are something that I want to work on as priority and just get these done. I also have yarn that I'd like to make him a Musselburgh with, which is the yarn that I got from Portugal when we went to La Bien-Aimée Dye de Mondim. But I've told myself I'm not casting that on until I finish these. These I'm knitting on 2.75mm DPNs. And I think it's 2.75mm the pattern recommends. So that's that. That's my half finished object. Let's talk about some whips, and let's talk about the whips that you've seen first. So what I'm trying to do at the moment basically is really focus on my next deadline. So that's why this has got finished, because this was the next deadline, so I sat and cracked through on this. So the next one after that is this bad boy, which again, when you saw last time, I think I was just below the sleeves. I just joined for the sleeves, or split for the sleeves. And this is the Roadtrip Shacket by Maya Tinks, who is Maya Diglon on that's her designer name. She's Maya Tinks on YouTube, Ravelry, Instagram. I don't know if she's on Ravelry as that. And this is absolutely gorgeous. It's quite rolly, so let me try and show you in the best way I can. This is much further on than when you last saw it. It's going to be a nightmare to show. Let me see if I can pop it on. I'm going to take this off. I'll pop it on and show you. This is due on the 5th of March. The test net's due on the 5th of March. And it's going to come out a couple of days after that on the 7th. This is a shacket, as the name would suggest, which is a shirt jacket. And the idea is that it's like it is a cardigan, I guess, like an outerwear piece, but it's meant to look like a shirt. And I'm really, really happy with this. It is rolling a lot, and I'm a little bit concerned about that because it's supposed to have anti-roll edging. But a lot of the testers have said their anti-rolls didn't anti-roll until after they blocked them. And one of my friends, Leah of Leah Amadit, so I mentioned a minute ago, has said that she's used this in a couple of her designs and it blocks it again. When she's blocked it, it sits a lot more flat. So I'm hopeful that that's how this is going to work. But yeah, I'll show you this side because this side's looking most like the finished object. So this is the collar, which is properly rolling, but it has a shirt collar that's going to sit round like that. I've done my button bands. This is the button holes on this side, and the buttons are going to go on this side. And then I've done a pocket and I've done a sleeve, and I'm so happy with how this sleeve is fitting. The sleeve's really hard to show you, but the sleeve's fitting really, really nicely. And then it's got this gorgeous curved hem at the bottom. Let me come back so I can show you. There you go, look. So to make it look like a shirt jacket, it's got this really nice curved hem at the front, and then at the back it's got that lovely split at the side. It's gorgeous, and it's very nearly done. I need to do the second pocket and the second sleeve, but the sleeve took me like 2 days to do, and the pocket took me about an hour. So, I mean, it took me longer to seam the sides of the pocket up, I'll be honest, because I'm not big on seaming. But I need to do all that, and then I need to block it, and then it's done, and I just need to pick some buttons. So it has, I think it's 5 up the front, and then 2 on there and 1 there. But it's beautiful. I'm so hoping that, especially the collar, I'm really hoping that that sort of blocks and eases out and flattens down, because, oh, it's so good. This is such a lovely design that Maya's done. This is such a fantastic design, and it's going to be really, really wearable for me. I am knitting this in Drops Nepal, which is the Aran Weight wool alpaca blend. I think it's 70% wool, 30% alpaca. I love the colour. The colour is the shade burgundy, and it just looks so good on me. This is one of those that it is casual, but I think this will be absolutely fine for wearing at work, especially with something like this underneath, just a plain black t-shirt, something like that. This will look really nice on Teams. It's got these lovely textured patterns up the top, and then the rest is stockinette. Really nice sort of seam detail. And then, yeah, the cuffs where she's not done rib, she's done an I-cord and then stockinette, and then the anti-roll bind off. And I love that cuff. I think it looks so good. So, super pleased with this. I know as well that when it's blocked, because it's got the alpaca in it, it will drape really nicely. So I think this is going to be super, super wearable. Is that everything to say about it? So I'm knitting, so you knit this on a few different sizes. It was 5.5mm needles for me for the texture. Then the stockinette is on 5mm needles, and then the trimmings, that's the word, the trimmings, your button band, your collar, cuffs and all that are on 4.5mm needles. But it's big needles, big yarn, it's absolutely flying. And I'm having a great time. It's hurting my hands a little bit at this point because it's very heavy at this point, so working on it is a little bit hard on my hands. But yeah, it'll take me about a day to get the sleeve done. Maybe 2 days total to get the second sleeve done and get this done. And then it'll go in for blocking. And I adore it. I think this is going to be so wearable. It's lovely and warm as well. So that's my Roadtrip Shacket. Let me take this off again. And what else have we got to talk about? So let's talk about this while we're here. This is my entry for the Get Ahead Mal. I figured that I'd be a pretty bad YouTuber if I had a make along and I didn't enter it myself. So I decided to cast on a summer top, and I think we spoke about this last time, and I just had a weird little panel. I hadn't joined or anything. So this is the Pillars of Simplicitee by Claire Jackson, who is perfectly knotted on Instagram and everything. This is a top-down raglan, is it raglan? Yeah, top-down raglan V-neck t-shirt with a boxy fit and this big section of 2x2 rib at the bottom, which I'm just starting. I said before I was a bit taken aback by this pattern because, and again this is maybe just my perception of the pattern, with a name like Pillars of Simplicitee I expected it to be a simple design, and I found the construction, the increases, quite difficult to keep track of. So I don't know if you can see, you've got a visible raglan there, which is really lovely, but the increase rates are quite complex to keep track of, and it's just in an Excel spreadsheet basically that you need to keep track of. There was about, I think it was like 11 different possibilities for increase rows, and depending on the size that you're doing, you do different rows at different times and at different rates. So it was really hard to keep track of. I think I did a combination of maybe about 7 different increases throughout my size. I'm knitting the size 44 inches. I didn't mention with the shacket, I'm knitting size 4, I think. I'll put that on screen. We'll talk about that more when I finish it next week anyway. But once I got that done, it just flew. I joined in the round for the V-neck, knit a bit more, and then I've split for the sleeves, and then I've worked down the body, and I've just started the ribbon. And when I tried it on the other day, I think, so the ribbon on Claire's sample starts a bit sooner. It starts straight underneath the bust. It's actually slightly on the bust that it starts, and I didn't want that. I wanted mine to start a little bit before my natural waist so that it sort of sucks in a bit of my natural waist. So I've done more in terms of length for the body. When I tried it on the other day, it fits so nicely. The fit on the top is absolutely gorgeous. I really, really like it. But I just started the body. Sorry, I just started the ribbon, and I decided that I wanted about the same amount of ribbon as I had of stockinette, and that's about 5 inches. So I've probably got about another 4 inches of ribbon to do before I bind off, and then I've got the sleeves to do, which I don't think are very long at all. And then a bit of neckline. Now, I think it's just an I-cord neckline or something like that. And she says it's optional in the pattern, but I think I'm going to need to do it because I don't know if you can see. Mine is really, really curling, and it's much more noticeable when I've got it on. It's also curling on the back. You can see it quite well there. The back cast on edges is curling. So I'm definitely going to need to do that. But I'm super happy with how this is turning out. So the yarn I'm using, again, is all from Stash. This is the Lion brand Comfy Cotton Blend, which unfortunately I think is discontinued, which is a shame because it's really lovely. I got this in a D-stash on Ravelry, and I honestly, if I was buying yarn, I probably would have gone and looked for some more because I really like this. It's a DK weight summer yarn. It's 50% cotton, 50% acrylic, and you can see it's got some real variations in colour in there. So it's got reds, pinks, yellows, blues, purples, almost some like tanny colour, and then all of it with like a white core running around it. It's almost like a barber pole in yarn. It's really nice to work with. Really nice to wear and to drape. It's sort of nice drape and everything to it. And yeah, I think I'm going to get a hell of a lot of wear out of this when it's finished. Again, this looks really nice with black jeans. Fits really nice, isn't too low of a V, is very flattering. So yeah, much as I was a bit taken aback by the complexity of the increases, I can now completely see, having tried it on, why people rave so much about Claire's patterns, because this is really, really nice fitting. Again, by the time you see me next time, I think this will most likely be finished. And that is, no, one more to show you that you've seen, and then 2 to show you that you haven't. So this one, I'm fairly certain I've left this in the middle of a row, which isn't great. This one is my sample for Wild Pearl yarns that I am making of the Ashleen Shawl by Justina Lavoska, I think is the name. She's got a different name on Instagram that everybody knows her by more. Again, I think last time I showed you this, I had maybe one little wedge at the top, and we are now much further through. So this is a shawl that you start up at the top with a garter tab, and you increase as you go to make this big, I guess it's a triangle shawl, crescent shawl. And it's got these really nice, it calls them raindrop sections, eyelet sections with garter bumps in between. I'm on the last eyelet section, the last raindrop section at the bottom. I think I've got 3 more. Yeah, 3 more eyelet rows to do. And then I'll be onto the border, which is knit. So you're knitting down this way for this, and then the border is knit this way. You cast on some stitches at one edge, you go round, and it's all cables and lace and twisted stitches, and that's going to be in the green. This is really fun and really beautiful. The yarn is definitely helping because it's lovely. Lauren, every time I talk about Lauren of Wild Pearl Yarns, I kind of wax lyrical, but I really do love her stuff. Her sock base is a 80% wool, 15% nylon, not a, I don't know if you can hear that, the dog's dreaming next to me, so he's making little squeaks. Yeah, so most sock yarns that you get are 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Lauren's is an 85-15, so 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, and it's so squishy and soft and lovely. There are a few other dyes that do that. Who was it? I think it's Wildflower Yarns does it as well. There's a few dyes that do that 85-15, and it's really nice, especially if you're not using it for socks. It's just got a bit more squish and drape to it. The colours are beautiful. I said last time, so this colour is definitely the colour Bud, and I said that this one's Fountain of Roses, but I don't think it is. That is what the that is what the ball band said, but I don't think that is. These are colours that are going to be coming out shortly that she's done as new spring colours. And I think at the end of March, these are going to be coming to her shop on Etsy. So yeah, really highly recommend them. They're beautiful. It's made me want to turn this into a top. How nice would that look as a t-shirt? I tried to make a sample of it in some other yarns that I've got, but part of it is actually the colours. So maybe I need to get some of these from Lauren when she, with my store credit, when she comes out with them, because I think this would make a really nice t-shirt. Just imagine that as a raglan t-shirt. That's your raglan going down there. Oh, that would look good, wouldn't it? I might need to do that. So yeah, this after the road trip, this is my next deadline due, so this will be getting all my priority, and I'm really enjoying working on that. Okay, 2 new things to show you. I'm out of breath again. First new thing to show you, yeah, let's touch on this one first. So this was an impulsive cast on the other day. I had the yarn in stash for this. I bought the yarn specifically for this. I've been intending to do it for ages, and I just haven't got round to it. So again, if you've been watching this, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you will have seen me make the Piennar top last year as a sample for Botanical Yarns. That is a drop shoulder striped stockinette and lace top designed by Vera Valimaki, and I knit that as a sample in 2 of their shades of it was Alchemilla and Mollis, which is like a greeny yellowy colour with sort of dusty pink lace stripes. And I said at the time I wanted to make another one for my mum. Mum, I don't think my mum watches, but if you are watching, don't watch because you'll spoil something. So just bugger off, basically. Yeah, I said at the time I wanted to make one for my mum, and I was also knitting a sample, not at the same time, just after, for Shannon of Shannon of Blue Fern Yarns. And I used my store credit that I got from that sample to buy yarn to make a Piennar top for my mum with. And I finally the other day just went, do you know what, I really want to cast that on, I'm just going to do it. So the yarns that I've got are these 2. This one is the shade Grove, and this one is the shade Chartreuse. Both of them are on Shannon's sock base, which is a 75-25 merino nylon. It's a really nice base. It's a standard sock base. It's not as squishy and as fluffy as the others, but it's going to work really, really well for this design. And I cast on, and we are working on it. So let me show you. Look at that. I love this colour. This is the Grove colour. So I decided I wanted to do the stockinette portions in the solid colour, the variegated colour, because I really wanted that variegated yarn to shine. And then the lace pattern is going to be in the Chartreuse, which you can just see popping up there, because I wanted the lace to shine. And yeah, I'm really happy with that choice so far. It's rolling quite a lot because you start at the back. It's a drop shoulder construction, so you start at the back, you do some short rows, and then you start working down your back panel in your lace. And it's really hard to show, but yeah, really happy with how they're working up together and how it's looking. Really fun to work on and really enjoyable. My mum doesn't know she's getting this, as you might have guessed from me telling her to bugger off and not watch. So I haven't got a deadline. I'd like to get it done by Mother's Day, which is the end of March, but that might not happen. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself, because again, she doesn't know. She'll love it whenever she gets it. She won't be bothered that it's not on a Mother's Day or something. And I'm really pleased with it. I'm making a size 5, which is going to be a bit big on her, I think, but she prefers looser, baggy. I think it's got about, I think the finished garment is about 56 inches, and I'm slightly under gauge, so it should be slightly smaller than that. I'm using 3.5mm needles, which is the recommended needle size, but when I knit this before, I had to go up to a 4 to get gauge for myself, or for the sample, sorry. So I'm slightly under gauge, but I think that still should be fine. It's going to give her plenty of positive ease. She prefers things a bit more loose fitting. She wouldn't want it really tight, and I think she'll wear this a lot. The colours, I mean, the colours would suit me, but the colours will really, really suit her. So yeah, very pleased with that and really enjoying working on it. And then the next thing I cast on was completely impulsive, to try and use up some stash. And I haven't finished one of the squares. Let me just check I'm not pulling that off the needles. You may recognise this if you've been around the internet at all. This is the start of a Stella Quilt cushion by Laura Penrose. I'm going to stop that needle chinking. So I had purchased some yarn when we were in Prague last year. I think I showed it on the podcast. I purchased these 2. There is another ball of something different, but it doesn't go with these colours. So these are Austerman Season Alpaca. One is the colour 2, one is the colour 4. I can't remember which, because they haven't got colourway names, they've just got colour numbers. These are 50-gram balls. I got one of each, and they are 29% cotton, 25% alpaca, 26% nylon, and 20% wool. And they are almost these. Let me show you one. You see that there? Yeah, it's almost like thick and thin, but not quite. Very textured yarn. It's like got a core, which I suspect is the nylon, and then everything else is plied around it. And this one's all greens and greys and browns, and this one's sort of reds and blacks and browns, and I got one of each of those from Prague. Didn't know what to do with them at the time. Very quickly decided I wanted to make a Stella Quilt cushion with them, and just never got around to casting on. And again, Leah of Leah Amber Knits cast one on. I think she's nearly finished hers because she's super quick. I am not, but I decided I was going to. And again, it's all stash. So this is the main colour is King Cole Big Value DK in the shade Oatmeal, I think. I got a load of this in a D-stash on Facebook Marketplace beginning of last year. I paid like £7 for 14 balls, so 50p a ball. I've got absolutely loads of it. It won't use up anywhere near all I've got. I still have a sweater quantity of it. But that's going to be my main colour. And then I'm doing my different squares in the red and the green. I haven't quite decided whether I want to do... So I'm doing motif 2, I think. There's 2 potential motifs in the Stella Quilt cushion. One of them has basically the I think it's called the North Star motif, and the other one's slightly different. I'm doing the North Star motif. So basically, this is the bottom of the cushion cover. There will be another one of these triangles here, and then it will create, and another one of the green here, and then vice versa on the other side, and it'll create a star in the middle. And what I can't decide is whether to do this as red and green and then alternate, or whether to do, whether to do a full red star, red point, I guess, and then a green, and then flip them and have a red quarter up here and a green quarter up here. And I think that's what I'm leaning towards, but I'm not 100% sure yet. It took me a bit to get, so the first square, really enjoyable, really liked it. Second square, I ended up casting this on about 3 times because I got it wrong. But once you get the knack of it, it really does make a lot of sense. So this one then, this one then flew. And then, yeah, basically you work it in strips, you go back this way and there you go. So this will, I'm just going to keep plugging away on this. It takes me about a couple of hours to do a square. I think that'll get quicker as I go through them because I'm more used to the squares and the techniques and the yarn. But really enjoying it, and it will go really nicely in the room. I've got loads of cushions, most of which have, some of these are really old cushion covers, so I could do with adding some onto it, so I'm just going to use some of those cushion pads for them. And I did think as well, when I was talking earlier about, I might have an idea with my, where's it gone? With the remainders of my Aran yarn, which I have promptly lost. Oh, for God's sake. This. So, there's 2 versions in the pattern. There is a DK weight version and an Aran weight pattern version. Basically, You do it the same, there's just slightly different numbers of stitches. And I did think I could use this and some, I've got some cream Aran, and I've probably got enough to do entirely out of one motif. So I could do some DK ones and some Aran ones. I think I've probably only got enough of these contrast colours particularly to do one DK weight one and probably one Aran weight one. But they're really good for using up scraps. The pattern itself was, I think, designed to use a advent, so I could hold fingering weight double for those. And yeah, I think I will probably end up with quite a lot of Stella Quilt cushions that will slowly grow behind me, basically. So that is the last remaining whip that I'm working on. These two, this and the Piennar, like I said, if I get the Piennar done by the end of March, great, and I'm really enjoying working on that at the moment. This one is, I'd just like to get it done and use up the stash, but it's not going to be a priority project at all. It is nice to use up some stash that means something, because we got engaged when we were in Prague. But also, yeah, there's no rush on this when it gets done, and I think we'll use it a lot in the room, but again, whenever it gets done, it gets done. Okay, that I think is everything I needed to talk about. It's a lot. And I was going to say I'm sorry for not having been here sooner. I still haven't done my stash tour. I am going to try and film that in the next week. I'll be honest, part of the reason I'm putting it off is just because I'm dreading it a bit. But it is more organised now. I've used up quite a lot of it anyway, so I can show you a bit easier what I've got and how I'm organise it, which isn't very organised, but there is some organisation there. So I'm going to try and film that in the next week. There is going to be a stash bust in February wrap up for you to see as well. That's going to be coming out. I'm going to film that hopefully this weekend or next week, and we'll get that out. And I'm going to try and get back into at least every other week doing a podcast update for you, because this is too much for one episode. Basically, this is way too much for one episode. It's been, do you know what? It's been a weird few weeks. I've found February a lot harder in terms of stash busting and yarn ban than I have found January. Stop that. Stop that. Don't kick yourself. Yeah, I found it much harder than I did January. I have been good. I haven't broken it, but I've been tempted far more. I've been tempted far more. And you might be able to tell I've been quite impulsive in terms of cast-ons, because when I couldn't buy yarn, that was what I went for. I said, oh, I'll just cast on a new project, it'll be fun. So I really want to try and work on getting some of this down. I want to get the road trip done. I want to get that sample for Wild Pearl done, because they'll both be then cleared off and I can focus on other things. But yeah, I'm trying to focus now on basically running down my deadlines. This is the next deadline, this needs to get done. This is the next deadline, this needs to get done. Because I've got quite a lot. I've always got quite a lot. I like that. I just want to make sure I complete them. So that, I think, was everything I wanted to say. I felt like I was going to give a life update at the end, but I can't remember what I was going to talk about. Yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you very much, guys, for watching and spending your time with me, because I know this was a bit chaotic and it was quite a lot. It was quite a lot. It's really good to be back, and I'm hoping to be back more regularly now. Now I've done this big one, I feel a bit better about keeping in the sort of swing of it. And I've got some ideas for new things that I want to do coming up. So I will be back next week with other videos. I'm excited to give you my stash busting update for February, because I haven't actually done the totals yet. So I don't know how much I've used and how much I haven't. But we'll chat about that. And yeah, thank you very much for spending your time with me, guys. I know your time, free time, is precious, and I know sometimes spending an hour to sit down and watch me waffle about knitting it's a big thing that you do that, so I really appreciate it. But I hope you're having a great day, evening, weekend, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.